Hi, everyone, and welcome to our panel. My name is Angelique Archer, and I will be the moderator for our panel discussion today. I would just like to thank you all for joining us today and to, of course, our wonderful panelists who will introduce themselves in a moment. First and foremost, congratulations on your acceptance to the class of 2024 at Hamilton. You should be incredibly proud. We know that it's difficult to choose where you will call home for the next 4 years given the current global pandemic. As seniors at Hamilton, our final semester isn't going the way we expected either. While our situations are different, we empathize with the range of emotions you must be feeling right now and hope that this conversation with us will help you understand why we chose Hamilton as our home. We'll start off with an introduction of all of our panelists. As I mentioned, my name is Angelique Archer, and I am a member of the class of 2020, a senior, which is crazy. Born and raised in Miami, Florida, and I'm a proud member of Posse Miami. I am a double major in theater and economics, and outside of that, I am a member of Caribbean Students Association on campus and the artistic director of Untitled at Large, the student theater company. Ben?
My name is Benjamin Katz. I am also a member of the class of 2020. I am from New York City, and I'm a double major in history and government. Outside of the classroom, I am a member of Greek Life, and I'm an editor for the student newspaper, The Spectator.
Hi, I'm Nadav Conforti. I'm also a senior member of the class of 2020. My hometown is Newton, Massachusetts, just outside Boston. I'm a government major and a Middle East Islamic World Studies minor. On campus, I am a member of the Ultimate Frisbee team, and I'm also senior president of the senior class in the student assembly.
And I'm Maddie Pumphrey. I'm also a senior. I'm from Ann Arbor, Michigan, and I'm studying psychology and French. And outside of admissions on campus, I'm involved in club soccer and a part of HAVOC, which is the Hamilton Association of Volunteering, Outreach, and Charity.
Nice. Well, you all submitted lots of amazing questions for us when you registered for this event. Unfortunately, we will not be able to answer all of them during this Q&A, but we will do our best to answer as many of them as possible. You should also feel free to ask more questions using the YouTube live chat on the right-hand side of your screen, and we'll try to add some of those questions to the mix. The first question is about open curriculum. Before I ask that question, I kind of want to let you know what open curriculum is here at Hamilton. It just kind of means that you're able to take classes that you're really interested in. We don't have a core curriculum, or you have to take 2 classes of math, 2 science, 2 history, and 2 English in order to graduate. You can start off just taking classes that you're interested in. I think that's really great. And the first question is, how have you utilized the open curriculum to pursue your academic interests?
Yep, so I came into Hamilton with 0 artistic ability. And while I haven't actually been able to explore creative art classes, I've gone really into art history, which relate really closely to both of my majors. Having a deep understanding of culture and a deep understanding of art history itself is extremely relevant to understanding politics and history more broadly. If I had been forced to take an art history class, I'm honestly not sure I would have liked it, but the fact that I was able to take the classes that were interested in art history, specifically a class on the economics of art markets and on installation and performance art, which was also of interest to me, really allowed me to enjoy the discipline and added to my knowledge and added to how I view my other disciplines.
Yeah, I feel like I've also really been able to take like a lot of really different interesting classes outside of like French and psych, which I'm studying primarily, but I've gotten to take like government classes and environmental studies classes and just all kinds of different things to try out and see like what other kinds of areas of study there are on campus. So it's super interesting.
Nice. The next question is, what new passions or interests have you developed as a result of the open curriculum?
So,
you can go to Nadav.
All right, so I actually ended up coming into college pre-med, and for anyone that knows me, I'm now very involved in government, and so I think once I realized pretty early on that wasn't what I wanted to do, I think the open curriculum gave me that flexibility, which I'm so thankful for, to be able to really pivot and realized after taking a single government class that, yeah, I want to get more involved in this. And then from then on, I just kept taking more and more government classes, specifically many that were focused towards politics in the Middle East, because I realized that was also something that I was really interested in.
Okay, the third question is, what is the coolest class you've taken or your most memorable class experience? Nadav?
I have, so there's two, I'll be very quick. So one of my favorite classes I've ever taken was Politics of the Middle East, North Africa with Professor Kira Jume. Just the class itself was just so fun and also so informative. And I mean, it was a huge class. I mean, it was probably like 20 people, which is relatively big, I guess, for me. And it was just so engaging, and it really just changed so much of the way I think. And also one of my favorite classes I'm currently taking, Himalayan mountaineering with Professor Isserman, and it's a history class. I'm really dipping my toes into history. And most years the class takes a trip of around 12 students to Nepal, which is an amazing experience.
I also have an answer to this question. I took a class called The Culture and Politics of Food, which was really cool. It was like completely outside of both of my majors, something I just took because it sounded cool. And basically on Mondays and Wednesdays, we would meet and we would discuss different readings about like industrial agriculture and the food system. And like people would present family recipe projects, and they would bring in food that they made. And then on Fridays, we would go on field trips to places like local farms and local bakeries, and we would cook in the dining halls with the dining hall staff. So it was a really cool class that I was super excited to get to take because of the open curriculum. So.
I also have an answer to this class, an answer to this question. My favorite class that I've ever taken was the philosophy of race, gender, and culture, which I took with Professor Franklin, who is one of my favorite professors on campus. It was a class that I took like my freshman fall, which was crazy. And it was just a class where we just began to explore how to think. And I think that it's really influenced the way that I think about things. Like it began with the idea of like, everything is a discourse of truth. And then from that, I just began to analyze my opinions about everything and just question them. So I think it just really influenced the way I think about everything, which is really cool.
I guess I'll round up the panel with an answer for this. But I guess the coolest class I've taken is a history class with Professor John Eldovich called Columbus's Library, where you read the books that Columbus was supposed to have read prior to journeying to what was then termed the New World. And I think it was a really unique take on a history class. You normally don't do a history class that goes from BCE all the way up to 15th century AD. It was really expansive and really in depth. I'd never taken a medieval history class before. And then another class I'm currently in right now is a course on international law with the college's president, President Whitman. Before President Whitman came to Hamilton, he worked at Cornell and the University of Minnesota's law schools. And before that, he worked in the Clinton administration in international law. So it's been really fascinating taking a class with someone who's both an academic and a practitioner. And it's a really small class. There's about 10 of us. Nadav is also in the class. And we got to use a second-year law textbook, and we got to really explore some things in ways that I think most undergraduates will never have the experience for. As a pitch for a small school, you would really never have that experience at a larger school to take a class with the university's president. And President Whitman has made himself accessible and available, and we get to meet with him outside the class. It's just like any other professor you would have.
Nice. The next question is a new question. Some of you have said that you are doing both a major and a minor, or even two majors. What has influenced you in making that decision, and what are the benefits of taking a minor or another major?
I can start. So I came to Hamilton, like not really sure what I was going to study, but like kind of thinking psychology or maybe neuroscience. And I like started on the track to be a psych major, intended for that to be maybe my only thing. I thought maybe I'd minor in something else, but I hadn't really figured it out until I decided I wanted to go abroad my junior year to Paris, for a semester. And so I ended up, I was going to have so many of the credits that my advisor really pushed me to go all the way and double major. So I've been able to now like add that in as a second major, which definitely wasn't part of my plan, but has been really interesting and cool. So.
That's great. For me, why I'm a double major is probably linked to why I chose Hamilton. I think I really wanted, theater is my main passion, my main focus, but I wanted to make sure that I was able to like explore a bunch of other classes and a bunch of other interests, and especially my interest in economics, which ended up being a double major. So I wanted to make sure that I would be able to go to a school where I could focus on both of those things, where one wouldn't be a predominant focus when I wasn't able to explore the other one.
Yeah, I guess for me, I've been a social studies kid since I was 4, and in high school and middle school, and even before that, history and government are taught inseparably. Politics is history, history is politics. So to me, it just seemed to make sense to study them hand in hand.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. That question was from Madeline Liu, so thank you for that. The next question is, can you describe how course registration works in open curriculum? Are you able to get all the classes you want and change courses at the beginning of the semester?
So, I mean, I would say that, so how course registration works, it's based off of times that we get assigned. So you get assigned times, whether it's the earliest is like 7 a.m. and it goes like every 15 minutes, it's staggered and it's kind of lottery based what time you get. And it goes, and so seniors pick classes first, and then juniors, sophomores, first years. But within classes, especially with kind of introductory classes in certain subjects, there are certain seats that are, for example, reserved for first year students so that a class doesn't necessarily get filled up. I personally have found that with registration and with adding and dropping classes, that it's really super easy. And so if a class, I think there have been a couple of instances where my first choice class wasn't able to get picked. But then I usually reached out to the professor immediately and said, hi, I know this is early. I'm going to show up to your class next semester and hopefully there's a spot for me. And almost every single time that, from my experience, there's been a spot. And that's just, it's usually just about advocating for yourself in that respect. And as far as even graduation requirements, it all just kind of happens by accident. Like you just take writing intensives by accident, or would y'all say that's been a similar experience for you guys?
I haven't had to like try to work to fit them into my schedule. They just kind of show up.
Yeah.
I'd also like to piggyback off of that by saying that you're not necessarily alone in this. You have an academic advisor, at least one at the beginning of your freshman year. If you're a double major, once you declare your major in your sophomore year, you end up getting an advisor for each one of your majors. And that person can just be your go-to to sort of help and make sure that if you have any advice or you want to see like, what is this professor like, or do you have any recommendations for classes, you don't have to be alone in sort of figuring out what classes you're interested in. You can go to this professor or your friends and just see, what did you think of this professor? Did you like them? What class would you recommend next, you know?
And what I really love about Hamilton faculty is that every professor basically can be your advisor. Every professor is happy for students to walk in and for you to talk to them. So when I've been interested in a certain thing that maybe it wasn't my advisor's expertise within history of government, I've always been able to walk in and ask, what class should I take if I want to learn about this?
Mm-hmm. Nice. The next question is printing free for students on campus? Ben, do you want to take this one?
I can take this question. This is I used to be a tour guide. This was a very common question on tours also. Printing is kind of free at Hamilton. Every semester you are loaded onto your Hill card, which is Hamilton's multi-purpose laundry, meal plan, swipe into the buildings card. You're loaded on $35 worth of printing, which from my perspective never seems to run out. I'm not sure exactly how many pages, but in my mind, printing is free. I mean, it's not free in the sense you probably paid for it somewhere along the way, but printing is easily accessible. There's printers in every major academic building, in the libraries. And they're also available 24/7. So if you are dashing to finish something at an unseemly hour, you are able to do so.
It also goes up. So I think your freshman year, you get about $30 a semester. And then by senior year, you get, I think, about $70 a semester because we're just printing a lot more with theses and job applications and all of that. Okay, the next question is, how much free time do you have on a given day? Do you often stay up late to study or finish coursework? Maddie, do you want to take this one?
Sure. So I definitely find that like I have a fair amount of time in my day that isn't spent in class that I then like break out into like, this is the time I'm going to study and this is the time I like have soccer and this is the time that I'm like going to trivia and things like that. So like I keep myself very busy, but it's not all like stuff that I have to be doing like because of a regimented schedule. Like I do have a fair amount of time to kind of plan my day how I want to plan it every day, and keep myself like doing interesting and fun things. Yeah.
And I mean, I would say also as far as like staying up late or finishing coursework, that all kind of ends up kind of being personal, I guess, as far as like how you like to do work. Some people like doing work at night. I personally have found that I've never had to pull an all-nighter at Hamilton. I mean, I would say that the work is most definitely manageable. And I mean, if you procrastinate sometimes, like I will occasionally do, then you might work a little later, but it's most definitely manageable. And I found that the transition, especially into my first year, was like super, it was really smooth. And they're like the whole point of those classes your first semester are there to kind of meet you where you are.
Mm-hmm. And
just a note on
Ben, you can go.
Professors are really empathetic. I know when I've been really jammed up with midterms or jammed up with finals or admittedly jammed up with my thesis right now, I know professors are very willing to move stuff to be accommodating. And because you really know them personally, you get to them outside the classroom, they're comfortable talking about your personal life with them and they're comfortable really going out of their way to help you and reschedule assignments. I tend to work really late at night because Hamilton leaves all of the academic buildings unlocked. So I like working empty classrooms. So that's one way to do that. But yeah, no, professors I think are really good about making sure that you are able to get done the work to the best of your ability.
The next question is, can you talk about orientation?
Can I take this one?
Yeah.
So hi, so I'm an orientation leader. I'm an orientation leader for what we call Adirondack Adventure. And so we take students out into the woods, and right before like the more formal orientation starts, we take students out, and it's usually a group of 10, around 10 students, and two already upperclassmen, and really we go out in the woods all around the Adirondacks, just north of campus, and it's really just a good bonding time, and it's a good time to make sure that, I mean, students kind of have an initial family when they first get there. Also part of orientation are, I mean, obviously kind of like introductory lectures. There's also a swim test involved. And so everyone takes the swim test. It's a graduation requirement. If you can't, if the swim test is kind of an obstacle at that moment, then you'll be enrolled in a PE class that will help you pass the swim test. I know for me, my orientation trip, it was called Cranberry Lake Canoe. We canoed on Cranberry Lake and then we backpacked. Do you want to say what your orientation trips were?
Yeah, so I did Racket River Down, which is canoeing down Racket River in the Adirondacks, and it was a lot easier than Racket River up, as I'm sure you can imagine.
Yeah, I did an XA trip, so that's exploration adventure. So my trip was called Movement and Meditation in the Wilderness. So we were staying in cabins. So it was like a little bit of luxury camping, because people made our food for us, and then we like spent a lot of time outside. But we also did like yoga and stuff like that. I got to go canoeing. It was very cool.
Mine was OA, which is Outreach Adventure, and it was Service Smorgasbord, which was just a bunch of different service activities every day. The next question, many of you have been asking about residential life and roommates. What is residential life like on campus? What is the housing system like? Does anyone want to take this? I can take this. I used to be an RA my sophomore year in Dunham, of all places. what is residential life like on campus? It's really varying. I think because we have both like a light side and a dark side of campus, you can really choose where you're most comfortable living. So we have doubles and we have singles, but we also have like the Kirkland loft, which is like an entire apartment with like a spiral staircase that's insane. So it's really varying. So even though it is 100% residential, you don't feel like you're living in a dorm all 4 years. You can really pick and choose where you want to live. What is the housing system like? Well, for the housing system, your freshman year, you kind of get a roommate, I think roommate agreement or roommate, where you sort of talk about what you're interested in. You talk about like what you like. Do you want a quiet room? You can list some of your preferences and what you might be interested in a dorm, and then you kind of get put into a dorm with usually one roommate, in some cases more. After that, you're allowed to choose your roommates. Sophomore year, junior year, and senior year, you have a housing lottery system that this year, I think for the first time, will be online. It will have to be online. But it starts with seniors being able to choose their housing, and then goes on to juniors, and then goes on to sophomores. Yeah. Okay, does anyone else want to have anything else to add to that?
Yeah, I guess I would just add that like the housing lottery process can be like a little overwhelming and a lot for everyone. And I can speak for experience. I was at the very end of the sophomore year lottery, so I was one of like the last few people to choose my housing. But I did end up very happy with where I lived, and I like wouldn't complain. You know, I feel like I've lived in some of the dorms with some of the worst reputations on campus, and feel pretty good about the experiences I had in both of them. So the housing is all around like pretty comfortable. Everyone's pretty happy with the way it works out, I would say.
What was your favorite dorm to live in?
Well, I lived in Babbitt the past 2 years, which I lived in a suite. So I had my own single, and then there were 3 other singles, a double, a kitchen, a common room, and a bathroom, which is how all of Babbitt and Millbank are organized. So that's on the dark side. I lived with a bunch of my friends, and I loved it, and I miss it. But
my sophomore year, I lived with 3 of my closest friends in a quad. So all of our beds were in the same room. And then we had a common room and a bathroom, and it was utterly filthy, but we very much enjoyed the experience. And I don't know, I'm the only child, which is a relatively rare thing at Hamilton actually, but I've had a roommate 3 out of the 4 years. A lot of students do opt for singles, but I really appreciate having roommates. I very much enjoyed that.
What about you, Nadal?
I lived down the hall from Ben our first year.
In a haunted basement.
It was not haunted. The floors were heated. It was wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay. The next question is, what is the community like? How would you describe the culture and student body at Hamilton? Is it inclusive?
I would say it's very inclusive. I came in as a January admit, so I came in the second semester, and I was definitely worried about like how well I was going to like acclimate to being in a new place with all these people who already knew each other. And like right off the bat, people were inviting me to different events and trying to get to know like the rest of the Jans from past years and things like that, which was something I kind of didn't realize that I was going to have access to on campus, like getting to know people who were Jans for the past 3 years. So right off the bat, I felt like I was really welcomed into the community, and like I could join a bunch of activities and get to know people in all sorts of different settings. I lived in Dunham, and it is the biggest freshman residence hall. And so I just got to know so many people right away, and everyone was super warm and friendly, which was definitely like one of my biggest fears freshman year coming in halfway through the year. And I learned pretty quickly that I didn't need to be so worried about that.
Yeah, I definitely feel the same. I wasn't a Jan, but I was a theater nerd in high school. And I sort of thought I would sort of fall in line with that group, and sort of spend my life kind of in like a clique, if that made any sense. But what was really great about Hamilton, especially my freshman year, was that I was taking so many different classes, and I ended up being friends with a bunch of people that I wouldn't have in my high school experience. Like I was friends with a bunch of athletes and a bunch of people who were in Greek life and all of that. And I thought it was really great because it made my whole experience just better, getting to know people who, like my best friend is a chemistry and religious studies double major, and she's just as passionate about chemistry as I am about theater. And I think that's just crazy. And I think that's just what's great about Hamilton, that you're able to connect with a bunch of people who have so many different interests because you're all connecting through like the same club, or just by hanging out in commons, or by having the same orientation trip.
Yeah, no, I think that Hamilton really allows for fluid connections across people who are really different and who have different experiences. One of my best friends is on the squash team. Before Hamilton started, I thought squash was kind of just like tennis in a box. That's kind of like still what it seems to me. I think me and him definitely had like very different upbringings, different perspectives coming to college, but we still became best friends. We were suite mates this year. My first group of friends were the 3 people I sat next to in my first ever class in Hamilton. I think the advantage of coming into a new place where no one really knows each other is that it's really easy to make friends, and really easy to make friends who've done a lot of different things in high school, a lot of different interests, a lot of different academic interests, social interests, and you're able to build a really diverse cohort of people to be with over the next 4 years.
Mm-hmm. The next question is for an explanation of the light side and dark side. Maddie, do you want to take this one?
Sure. So the light side and the dark side are the 2 halves of campus separated by the like main road that goes through. So the light side was the original like Hamilton campus, which was initially like all men's. And then the other side, the dark side, was Kirkland College, which was all women's. And so they merged in, I think, 1970, something like that. And I used to know that when I was a tour guide, and now I forget. But anyways, so basically each side of campus has like stereotypes that are like associated with the like personality of the people that live there. So people like to play into that, but it's definitely not something that like you're bound to. If you live on the light side your freshman year, you don't have to like be a light sider. And also that doesn't really have to mean anything, but I think it's just kind of fun to talk about like the different like social groups that are characterized as being on one side or the other. Yeah.
It also has like completely different architecture. So like the light side has brick walls, and it's very, because it was built in the 1800s, it's very like a classic college feel. But because the dark side, or Kirkland College, was built, I want to say during the 60s.
Yeah, it was like late 60s. Yeah, late 60s, early 70s.
Kirkland was in existence from 1960 to 1978.
Ben was a tour guide.
Oh,
So it has a lot more like cement structures. So it's just a very different side of campus, which is really cool.
It looks darker, and that's why we call it the dark side.
the fake reason was when we were tour guides that Kirkland College had a curfew and Hamilton didn't, but that's completely made up. The real reason is the architecture.
I'm still pretty sure it has something to do with Star Wars, but like someone let me know. So, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't think there's really a divide. I've lived on both sides of campus. I've also lived on a little known third side called the gray side of campus, which refers to some residence halls that are down the hill. It's where Nadav and I lived our first year. And where about half of the sophomore class typically lives during their second, or the half of the class lives during their sophomore year. But yeah, I think all different types of people live on all different parts of campus. At least that's been my perspective.
Yeah, I've lived on all three sides.
I've lived on two sides. Dark side, gray side. No.
Gray side's very real, very important.
So far.
It's not far. It's like
it's
the walk from Mortimer. The walk from Mortimer is like 3 minutes, and it's a good. You put headphones in, you listen to music. It's good.
They unshoveled the paths down the hill.
Before we go on to the next question, I just wanted to pause for a second and just thank you all for submitting all of your questions and for keeping a lively chat going in the YouTube chat. Keep sending them if you can. The next question is going up to you, Maddie. Is it relatively fluid for Jans to join the Hamilton community, or can it be an impediment to their social life? I know you've answered this a little bit before, but do you have anything else to say?
I definitely think it is relatively fluid. I think, especially, I think one of the great things that is possible for Jans to still do is come in to do orientation in the fall with everyone else, which is great because I got to know, my orientation group and like a couple people from other Jans orientation groups, and I got to meet like the group of Jans that I was going to be with. So that was really great. And then there is also an orientation for Jans in January where you kind of get to reconvene with everyone and the transfer students and talk about the experience of the fall. And then right off the bat, like I said, there are events specifically for Jans and for the entire Jan community on campus. And then, I think the one piece of advice that everyone gave me along the way was like, just join a club, and that'll be like, a good starting point for getting to know people, which is like definitely what I did. I joined club soccer and right away had a community of like 40 girls that I was happy to be around. So that was really good. But yeah, I think professors are definitely like aware of the fact that like Jans are coming in halfway through the year. And so telling them that was your experience, like they're very accommodating. They want to make sure that you're comfortable in your classes too. So yeah, I also think another thing that people told me when I was coming in that was useful is that Rush happens in the spring. So if you're interested in joining Greek life, or if you're not, like I really wasn't interested in joining a sorority, but going to Rush events helped me to meet like most of the freshman girls from my class. So that was a really great way just to like get to know people and have that opportunity as well.
Nice.
Apparently someone said that we seem super fun in the chat. Thank you. Everyone is like this. I'm more silly than the average human being, but yes. But yes, I would say everyone at Hamilton's super approachable. We're all super, I always like to say everyone at Hamilton's kind of like fun and goofy in their own way. You just got to figure out what it is.
Yes, I'm also seeing that the other thing to mention about my Jan experience is that I did go to London with the Arcadia program, and that was for me, most of the Jans my year went on that program, and we had a really great time. It was very cool, very like, manageable course load, and a very cool experience of getting to live in London for the first semester. And if you're looking for more information about that kind of stuff, there is going to be a panel for the January admits, which is the 9th or the 7th.
9th.
You get the 9th? Okay, cool, thanks. So there's going to be a panel for you guys there. And then there's also going to be a panel in the coming weeks about the Arcadia program. So that'll be cool too.
Nice. The next question is on Greek life. Ben, what role does Greek life play on campus, and are there any Greek houses?
Yeah, so I think at Hamilton, a lot of schools will try to tell you that Greek life is whatever you make of it. It's there if you want it. It's not there if you don't. That's not true. A lot of schools that tell you that Greek life is either an overwhelming part of their campus or is no part of their campus. I think Hamilton strikes a really good middle ground between incorporating a Greek life community and having plenty of social options and extracurricular options that are completely unrelated to Greek life. About a fifth of the student body is involved with a fraternity or a sorority. Hamilton has 9 fraternities, 4 sororities, and 1 co-ed society. For me, it's been a big part of my Hamilton experience. I really joined my fraternity because all my friends from my first year were joining, and because my orientation leader was in it. I think you'll find when you go on your orientation trips one day that a lot of what you do during your first year is heavily influenced by what your orientation leader did. For me, it's been a good way to meet a lot of people who I don't think I would have met otherwise. It's really broadened my social horizon. I've met a lot of guys across class years that I think I would not have been friends with, that I've not been engaged with, I would not have connected with. That being said, right now in my suite, there's 6 of us. 2 of them are in my fraternity, 3 of them are not. So as you can see, it's by no means overwhelming. It's by no means overbearing. You still will have friends outside of Greek life. Likewise, if you're not in Greek life, you'll still have friends in Greek life. And also, Hamilton doesn't have houses. A lot of fraternities and sororities at other schools do have houses. Hamilton got rid of all off-campus and society housing in 2006. So we live in the suites, we live in the apartments, we live in the residence halls, just like every other student on Hamilton's campus, which I think makes us a lot more ingratiated and a lot more enmeshed into the student body and into the environment.
Yeah, and to piggyback off of that, Greek life, like even when they throw extracurricular parties, it's not exclusive to only Greek life or exclusive to that frat, which I think is really, that fraternity or sorority, which I think is really great, because that allowed me to become friends with tons of people who are in sororities, or my best friend who used to be the president of sorority, without having to be in a sorority myself, which, like Maddie, that wasn't something that I was interested in.
Yeah. And it's more than just parties. It's, if all you think about Greek life is Animal House, we have come a long way since the 1980s. And there's really, we're academically involved, we're extracurricular involved, we're really involved in community service. All Greek members have to participate in service each semester. We host talks with professors. We do fundraisers on campus, and it's much more than just social life, I'd say.
Mm-hmm. The next question is, what is the local area like around Hamilton? Do you find that Hamilton is too rural or too small?
I love the local area around Hamilton. It definitely is pretty rural, but I think it's, I mean, Hamilton is its nice, like, own little separate community campus. Like, you have everything you need right there. But then, like, as you go right down the hill into Clinton, it's this very cute little town. There are some little shops and restaurants and things like that. So it's fun to kind of get to go explore. There's a cider mill, which is everyone's favorite place to be in the fall. They have amazing donuts and chili and things like that. So it's a fun place to be. And then, like, 15 minutes away maybe is New Hartford. And so there's access to, you know, places like Chipotle and Staples and Target and, like, all of the, like, big chain places that you need to go to access certain things, which is, like, very close to campus. So if you have a car as an upperclassman, that's easy to do. And if you don't have a car, there's a jitney that runs to the off-campus sites, like the grocery store and the movie theater and things like that. So that's a really good option for freshmen as well, as freshmen are not allowed to have cars on campus.
There's also the Zip car, which you can purchase for, I think, about $10 an hour, and that you can just go anywhere. A friend of mine rented out a Zip car for an entire day, and he went to the Syracuse Mall, which is about 45 minutes away, and we spent the entire day there, and it was really, really fun.
Hamilton's also about 20 minutes from Utica, which is actually the 8th biggest city in New York State. Coming from Manhattan, I didn't really think it was a city at first, but it really is. It's where the Amtrak station is. There's plenty of theaters and nightlife. There's a zoo as well. And it's like a real urban area, so you're really close to that as well if you do want to experience something that city may offer while you're in Hamilton. We're not as isolated as a lot of the other small liberal arts colleges.
And I think as far as size, I mean, I think sometimes people think like Hamilton's pretty small. I mean, I think,
yeah, the campus itself is pretty big.
Yeah, Hamilton, yeah, the campus itself, yeah, one, is huge. And two, I also think that, like, I think for me personally, like, in 2018, I was president of the student body, and even still, I'm still learning and meeting new people. It's not like you'll, like, meet everyone in the course of a couple of weeks, and then you're like, well, I know everyone now. You're always constantly, like, meeting new people. And so I mean, obviously, like, numerically, it might sometimes feel small, but there are a lot of people there.
Mm-hmm. I really think it's the right size. I think it's not large enough that you feel that like you lose yourself, or like you can walk down Martin's Way, which is the bridge at Hamilton College, and you'll always see someone that you know, like always. But you can still go to a class and there'll be 5-10 different people that you've never seen before in your entire 4 years at Hamilton College, you know?
Yeah.
The next question is, what should you do to stay warm during the winter, and how cold does it get? Can I answer this one, being from Miami? Cold. It gets cold. That being said, I have gotten used to it, or at least as used to it as you can. I think the coldest that it gets is during January/February. We can get to the single digits, but I think that's about as cold as it gets. And what we do to stay warm during the winter, we have stay indoors. But we also have like the Feb Fest, which is a huge festival that we have for 1 week in February. because that's one of the coldest months in the year, but it's also the month where you're on campus for the entire month, which can just be hard if you're in the winter. So we have like tons of activities, and they give out, I think this year they gave out hot chocolate on a day with like marshmallows, and they had like an entire fire pit where you could roast them on your way to class. And they have just like tons of different activities to really stay warm and to just make sure that you're having fun.
Yeah, I mean, and if you're into the cold weather too, it does get really beautiful out there with all the snow. I know that like some of my friends and I have gone snowshoeing in the Glen, and there's access to like skiing and things like that pretty nearby. So a lot of people like to do that kind of stuff too. I know we had a snow day in November, and people really enjoyed building forts and snowmen and all kinds of things all over campus. So people do like to get outside in the cold too. I know that's not for everyone, but it's definitely a great place for that as well.
And you could also try it. Like, I didn't think that I would be into the snow at all coming from Miami. But this year, for the first time, I went sledding on, what do you call them? Lunch trays that my friend bought down the hill right outside of Babbitt. Oh,
Yes.
it was crazy.
You know, Hamilton also, I guess just broadly, I'm sure we'll get to the outdoors later on, but Hamilton really tries to engage its students with outdoor education past just where your orientation trip is. So the Hamilton Outing Club leads not just winter-related trips, but leads every imaginable type of outdoors trip every weekend. Canoeing, kayaking, hiking, climbing, probably a bunch of stuff that, you know, I didn't even know you could do in the outdoors. But I was just thought about because of winter, one of my friends took me ice fishing, which is like the best activity because you just sit there. And just come straight out to you. But Hamilton does a really good job of engaging with the outdoors, and that way, especially during the winter months, taking advantage of being in central New York.
Did you catch anything?
No, but that wasn't the aim. You know, we just wanted to sit on the lake and yeah. But a few fish came up close. I think we were perhaps a little bit too complacent with the fishing. But yeah.
The winter's very manageable. That's, I think.
Yeah, it's fun because we're all in it together, you know, we're all cold together. We all walk from Babbitt to the Science Center in the cold, and it's fine.
Yeah, and the advantage of having everyone live on campus is there's also really no difficulty commuting to classes or commuting to activities. When it's
I complain about Babbitt to Science Center. It's like a 12-minute walk. It's not that bad.
There's also some tunnels. Oh, sorry, what were you going to say, Jeff?
I was going to say 12 minutes is about the longest walk you'll find between President's Hall and an academic building.
There's also some tunnels located below the ground between some of the academic buildings, which is really, really cool. There's one between KJ and List that actually I think has a painting of a dragon on one of the staircases, which is pretty cool.
I did not know that.
You didn't know?
Crazy stuff on the dark side.
What is the dining situation like on campus, and how accessible are the options for dietary differences?
So I think I mean, I was gonna say that's something that, like, as far as dietary differences, like, it's been getting better and better every year. I mean, I personally, I mean, my only thing is I'm lactose intolerant, but like, I don't listen to that. I love ice cream. But I think in general, like, listening to students who are vegan or might have like religious dietary preferences, and I think overall a lot of students have kind of seen like a kind of upward trajectory of Hamilton students trying to get as far as options. I guess a really cool thing I know McEwen does, it's one of the main dining hall on the dark side, is that the cooks there, if you give like a homemade recipe, then they'll make it and they'll make it en masse for people, which is really cool. Yeah. So that way also, like, a lot of international students also kind of feel like they get those like kind of tastes of home.
I am a vegetarian on campus and in my real life. Thanks, Madam. And yeah, I agree with that. I think it used to be that McEwen used to be like your go-to place for more vegetarian options, but I know that Commons has only been getting better and better with the vegetarian options, and Commons is now one of my favorite places to eat. And any of the dining halls, including diner, you can get a very good black bean black Russian. I would recommend. I miss it almost every day. Where you can just go up to pretty much every section, and they'll have vegetarian options, they'll have vegan options, they'll have gluten-free options, they'll have kosher options. They'll have like an entire gluten-free station where there is nothing allowed to be gluten anywhere near that, to make sure that those dietary restrictions are fulfilled.
Yeah, and just to kind of clarify about like the dining hall situation on campus, there's Commons, which is right in the middle of campus. That's like the main dining hall. And then there's McEwen on the dark side. So a little bit smaller, but definitely still like a very like major dining hall. I eat most of my meals there, or I did. And then there's Diner, which is a 50s themed diner. And it's super fun. They have a jukebox and like red leather booths, and it's open late on the weekends. They stay open till like 4:30 in the mornings to serve breakfast. So that's always super fun to go hang out and get those late night bacon and eggs. And then there's also the pub, which they do like a lunch special every single day. And that's kind of a fun place to hang out too. And then there are also, well, Commons is open like late night now too. So they're open until midnight. So I think, yeah, most nights of the week. So that's also a really nice option to have. And then also in addition to that, on campus, there are two cafes that are student run. So there's Opus, and there's a location for that on the dark side and on the light side. And so those are super good. They're not on the meal plan, but they have like coffee and pastries and like lunch specials every day too. And then there's Euphoria, which is a little cafe in the student center, which is also not on the meal plan, but a good place to like grab a snack. And they all have good options too. So.
By the time you're,
sorry.
I was gonna say by the time you're a junior or senior, you will most likely also have a full kitchen in your suite or wherever you live. So for students who do want to cook, you do not have to remain on a full meal plan. All first years are on the unlimited meal plan, so you can swipe into any dining hall as many times as you'd like. After that, there's some more added flexibility based upon where you live. So if you live in a place with a full kitchen, you can be on a meal plan as little as 7 meals per week, or you can be on a 14-meal week plan in addition to remaining on the unlimited. I stayed on the unlimited, which is thankful because of my cooking ability. But for other students who do like to cook or do want to try cooking more, they are able to do that and move on to a lesser meal plan.
And if you're really interested in cooking or in that sort of communal dining situation, we have the co-op, which is a living situation where you actually cook your meals together every night. And I think are you on the 7 meal plan?
Yeah, on the 7.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Can anyone else sort of talk a little bit more about co-op and what that experience is like?
Yeah, so it's a residence hall. I don't know how many people live there. It's like a little community though, and they cook all their own meals. So, or like all their breakfasts and dinners. And so that it's like a nice little community. They all hang out. They're like a close-knit little friend group, and they make all sorts of cool things, and you can be invited to come to co-op dinner by your friends that live in co-op, which is fun. So you get like a little introduction to what they do there. And yeah, usually they're on the 7, and so they can usually get like a lunch or, you know, another meal if it's more convenient during the day. So, yeah.
This is unrelated to meal plans, but it did remind me that Hamilton is expanding themed housing next year, I believe. I know this year there's 2 themed communities in a house called Saunders, which is at the center of campus. One, I believe, that's focused on video games, and one that's focused on outdoor leadership, I think, or not outdoor leadership.
I'm
maybe.
not sure. I don't know the second one.
One like wilderness. Yeah.
Wilderness. Okay, so wilderness, outdoor leadership, and there's an additional one on Spanish language and Spanish culture as well. So that gives, I've never lived in one of them. They, I believe, started 2 years ago. That gives an added option for students who kind of want to structure their housing around a specific subject area or live with like-minded students around that subject area.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess, I was going to mention like coffee as well and talk a little bit more about Opus, just because like I love coffee. And I'm very proud of it. I love regular coffee and iced coffee and everything else. Cafe Opus has so many cool, just like crazy drinks you can get, or just like a regular coffee if you want. We also have like Euphoria on campus, which is also on the meal plan, but it's in the student center. They also have great coffee. But Cafe Opus, like whatever you want, like they've got it. So as for all my fellow coffee lovers out there, we're set.
How about that. Yeah, also their food. I would say their food is really good. I have a bad habit of spending too much money at Opus because I love their lunch options and their pastries and their cookies, which they'll warm up in the microwave, and they're delicious. So yeah.
Miss the Opus chocolate chip cookie. I miss it so much.
And if you're bored of on-campus food, as Maddie mentioned, there's a plethora of dining options both in Clinton and in New Hartford, 15 minutes away. But also, so many clubs bring on food from off-campus that if you really just hopped around club meetings, you could probably eat a meal. Whether it be Indian food or Mediterranean food or pizza and wings, it's really easy to get food from off-campus as well.
Mm-hmm. And Euphoria also offers smoothies, if anyone's interested. I know I am.
I miss them. I miss those smoothies.
And their mac and cheese. Sorry.
Very true. Yeah.
The next question is about Career Center services and internships. Have you had any internships during your time at Hamilton, and can you describe the process for applying for them?
So every student is assigned a career advisor during the first semester of their first year. I believe there are 6 full-time career advisors at Hamilton, which is a lot for our student body population. In addition, there are student workers in the Career Center who help you connect to specific industries or help you with resumes and cover letters and interview and networking skills as well. I know when I've done my internships, they've been in really disparate organizations. For example, the summer after my first year, I interned with the Service Corps, and the summer after my second year, I interned with the Special Education Law Firm, both of which are obviously really different organizations. Neither of which I actually got through Hamilton, but Hamilton really helped me with the interviews, with the preparation. I did my interview for my second internship from the office of my career advisor. So they're really working to help you out. I definitely think it really helped me build my resume and build my networking skills. I couldn't have done that at the Career Center. Just from speaking with friends from high schools who go from my high school, go to other colleges, I think Hamilton, obviously I'm biased, has a really, really good career center relative to other small schools specifically. I imagine most students have also had that experience as well.
And
and then I guess next year, some people know what they're doing, some people don't know what they're doing, but I'm working for an investment bank in New York, which is completely unrelated to what I did with those 2 summers as well. So it really, I think Hamilton really helps students explore a variety of different career options. And I think it really emphasizes that just because you do one thing one summer, you don't have to do another thing, the same thing the following summer. The summer before my first year of Hamilton, I worked as a sleepaway camp counselor. That was still my best summer. I'd highly recommend anyone thinking about working at camp to go do that before it's too late. But yeah, I think Hamilton, and that really goes with the liberal arts ethos of really trying everything, exploring everything, and then deciding what you want to do. Sorry, that was long-winded.
No. To piggyback off of that, though, I wanted to talk about that not just Hamilton kind of helps you to get those internships, but they also help you to pay for them. Free internships and unpaid internships are hard to do if you have to work or do all of those things. So they have the summer internship funding, which is something that you can apply for every year now. And sort of get that money every year up to about $4,000. And that can be used to pay for food, that can be used to pay for travel, that can be used to pay for an apartment to live in New York City if that's where your internship is. So don't think that just because you can't afford an unpaid internship doesn't mean you shouldn't try to do one every summer.
Yeah, I got funding when I worked at the Special Education Law Firm that helped me pay for my Metro card and paid for my lunches. So they're really able to support you like that. In case you hadn't seen before, Hamilton's quite well endowed, and they're very generous with distributing funds to students to help them do stuff that's really meaningful and that they wouldn't be able to do otherwise.
Mm-hmm. And then there is also the ability to do internships while you're at Hamilton. We have the Washington, D.C. and the New York City programs, which are programs where you study abroad in New York City and Washington, D.C. We have apartments and the professor comes and teaches you classes, but you also are doing an internship while you do that. You do an internship Monday, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays, and take classes Tuesday nights and all day Wednesday. So it's a great opportunity to experience a new city, experience that city life, while also getting another internship under your belt. Like by the time that I graduate, I will have 4 internships in my back pocket because of doing internships every summer, thanks to summer internship funding, and also because of my New York City program, which was great. Nadav, can you talk about Washington, D.C.?
Yeah, so Washington, D.C., I spent my junior spring, so last spring in Washington, D.C., I worked on the Hill as an intern in the Senate. I actually ended up getting, like, what's kind of pushed me over the edge to get me that internship and kind of get accepted for that job was actually that there had previously the year before been a Hamilton student working there, and that they were so impressed with that student that they said, well, we'll take more Hamilton kids. It was really with writing.
Did you ruin that chain, or will they continue to take more?
I destroyed it. The entire U.S. government will never hire any more Hamiltons. No, I'm kidding. No, it was a wonderful experience. I'll likely go back and work actually on the Hill after I graduate. But I mean, I would say the Washington D.C. program, it's one of the best things. They have apartments in an area called Woodley Park, if you know D.C. It's a very nice park right by the zoo. It's by Adams Morgan, which is like a really kind of fun young place, and it's just such a easy and wonderful place to be in. I'm really, like, I don't even know where I would be if I hadn't had the opportunity to do that.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
I hope that, yeah, I think that covers a fair amount of it.
Yeah. And this actually segues into the other question, the next question that we have, as in what off-campus study opportunities does Hamilton provide? We talked a little bit about New York City and Washington, D.C. Maddie, do you want to talk a little bit about France?
Yes. So I spent my junior spring abroad in Paris on Hamilton's France program. So Hamilton has 3 specific abroad programs that like they have designed and they organize and run and everything. So there's one in Paris, one in Madrid, and one in Beijing. They're all language intensive. You live with a host family. You speak only the language that they speak there while you're there. So it's a little bit overwhelming at first, but definitely like a really, really incredible way to learn a language. And I definitely had a blast. I got to live with the most amazing little French couple, and I got to take classes in French universities and things like that. So it was definitely an experience that I'm super, super grateful to have had. And I know that like everyone that goes abroad with Hamilton like has said the same thing to me. So it's definitely a really great experience. But then if you're not interested in either of those 3 programs, Hamilton has over 100 pre-approved programs around the world. So you can find somewhere, just about anywhere you're interested in looking. And if for some reason you can't find one in like the location that you're looking for, you can always petition to potentially get other programs approved. So there are lots of ways to study abroad, and lots of students take advantage of that opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I went to the University of Edinburgh in Scotland. There were 4 other Hamilton students on my program, but it was not run by Hamilton. It was run by EFSA Butler, which is associated with Butler University, which is a major program provider. And yeah, I had a great time. It was definitely a cornerstone of my Hamilton experience. About 70% of students spend at least 1 semester off campus. So it's definitely a big part of a lot of our experiences.
Mm-hmm. The next question is, what do students do to stay active on the weekends? What are the most popular campus activities or athletic events students should attend? Well, the first activity that I really think that we have to mention is the Orange Bowl, or the Citrus Bowl.
Citrus Bowl. I mean, that's one of the best traditions at Hamilton.
It's a huge hockey game. Who is it usually played between?
It's usually one of the first home games. I was in charge of running Citrus Bowl this year. The first home games after the Thanksgiving break, hockey game. So it's usually us against like Williams or Trinity or some other NESCAC. And so initially it was called the Citrus Bowl because you would throw citrus on the ice. We don't do that anymore. We play fair, play clean.
But it's really great. I had never seen a hockey game before I came to Hamilton. It wasn't a really thing in Miami, but now I go to the Citrus Bowl every year, not just for the free t-shirts, even though that is a bonus, but just to see the game. Like, people are yelling and people get so into it. It's probably one of the most packed sports games every year,
Hamilton really has a jam-packed calendar on the weekends. Obviously, there's athletic events, but there's also theater, there's music groups. Hamilton does a great job of bringing visiting professors to campus as well, if you want more academic engagement outside the classroom on the weekends. Socially, Greek life organizations, club sports organizations, really any type of organization. Also, obviously, there's parties at night. And Hamilton facilitates this by having parties in on-campus spaces that are open to the entire student body.
Mm-hmm. However, if partying is not something that you're interested in, every weekend they usually have a late night event, which is around, I think, 9 p.m. to 1 p.m. on most Fridays and Saturdays, which is a non-alcoholic event. They've done mocktails, they've done a game night. What are you going to say?
They're painting succulent pots with Bob Ross playing in the background.
I don't know if Rave Cave counts as one of those, but they have like open hours at the Rock Wall like late at night, and they do glow sticks and things like that. So that's also a fun one.
Mm-hmm. They have a lot of different activities, including ones that you can create yourself. I think my sophomore year, I created a murder mystery dinner party late night, which was really, really fun.
Yeah.
And now on to the final question, and this is a big one. Why did you choose Hamilton? Maddie, want to go?
Sure. So for me, coming from Michigan, not a lot of people know that Hamilton exists. And my college counselor told me to go out and check it out. And I visited, and I just had a really, I got the impression that the community in Hamilton was so warm and welcoming and engaged. And I was so excited by the impression that I got from the community there. And then I happened to do an interview with Hamilton as well that also just helped me to really know that it was a place where I could see myself. And so then when I was accepted as a January admit, I was a little bit thrown off guard at first. I freaked out a little bit. And then right away, was in contact with people in the admissions office who were telling me hey, this is what the experience is like. Here are students you could talk to and things like that. So right away, I was able to realize that actually this was a really cool opportunity that Hamilton was giving me. And I could just tell that I was going to be able to pursue my academic goals and my extracurricular goals and things like that at Hamilton. So I decided to kind of take that chance and go to London for my first semester. And I think it was definitely an experience I'm grateful to have been given, even though I was a little terrified at first.
Mm-hmm. Nadav?
I would say, for me, it's really the open curriculum. That's just been one of the defining things for me. I say it a lot, it just gives, you're paying, college is so expensive, and so you get to make your education your own. And so I've just found it, the open curriculum has been kind of the defining factor for me. And then the rest, kind of the added bonus is it's a beautiful community. The campus itself is stunning, but also just it has such a vibrant community, and there's so many things going on that, I knew that kind of the school was invested in students. So if I went, I'd be all right. And I just wanted to be all right. And so, I've been more than, if I would do it all over again.
Mm-hmm. I think for me, I really wanted to I wanted to check a lot of things off and make sure that I was able to do everything that I wanted to do during my 4 years at Hamilton. And I knew I wanted to double major in theater and economics. I know I mentioned that a little bit earlier. But I also really wanted to study abroad for all of my junior year. I really liked Hamilton because of its New York City program. That was something that I was really interested in. But I also really wanted to study abroad in London. And I know when I was looking into other schools, it would have been very hard for me to double major and study abroad for all of my junior year if I had a lot of requirements. So with the open curriculum, I was able to, because I knew exactly what I wanted to study when I got to Hamilton, take those classes right off the bat and begin to make sure that I could study abroad for all of my junior year. And it was such an amazing experience. And like Nadav, I would do it all over again.
Yeah, so I knew that I wanted to go to a small college. I think that's where you get the attention from faculty. I think that's where you're able to do research. I think it's what prepares you best for graduate school. So I knew going into the college process, really a small college is what I was looking for. The open curriculum really appealed to me. I think that I had a broad, kind of liberal arts interest in education, but I did not want to be told what specific class to take. I kind of wanted to explore that more organically. Hamilton places a really strong emphasis on writing and writing disciplines. I knew that I was really into writing from high school, and I wanted to continue that. And then finally, I think a lot of small liberal arts colleges are caricatured perhaps unfairly as artsy, or they're preppy, or they put a lot of emphasis on sports or no emphasis on sports. I think Hamilton does a really good job of attracting every single type of student academically, socially, from different socioeconomic backgrounds, from different geographic backgrounds. And there is no one type of Hamilton student, which is something that I felt some other liberal arts colleges. So I've really, really enjoyed getting to know people from such a wide variety of perspectives and backgrounds. And that's really been the cornerstone of my Hamilton experience.
Nice. Well, I think that's the final question. That's all we have time for, but thank you so much for attending the panel. We hope you enjoyed hearing about our on-campus experience. Thank you also for all of your questions. We are sorry we could not get to all of them, but if you would like to stay connected with us through the various virtual options we are now offering, please visit hamilton.edu/explore. We will be updating this page regularly with new content and information, and please be in touch with the admissions office with any questions that you have after tonight. Thank you again for spending time with us and letting us share our experience. We hope that you choose to join the Hamilton community next year. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.